Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Scumdogs Kennel. I'm your host, Chris Williams, and I have yet another great show planned for us. But while we wait for people to gather in the chat, let me go off and get some artwork up for my own upcoming graphic novel, Scumdogs. Just give me a moment, like that. And then we're going to be looking at, well, more fantastic, well, alien and cryptid encounters. All right, here we go. Here is my extreme 90s cover. This cover I did to harken back to the comics of the 90s. It looks pretty good. It has almost all of the characters that will be appearing in this graphic novel on it. Now, the name of my graphic novel is Scumdogs. It's a parody of cartoons all of us grew up with and stuff like that. Now, let's see other words to say. Oh, yes. Now, the Scumdogs themselves, the title characters, well, they're villains trying to take over the world. They used to be pro-athletes, but they were superhumanly powerful pro-athletes. They're called Scumdogs because, well, they're scum and dogs because in the future, well, they traded in their humanity for superpowers to compete in sporting events. There's such a thing known as the Scumdog Sports. It's basically superhuman sporting events held with superhumanly powerful monsters as athletes. So they're called Scumdogs for trading in their humanity. Not exactly the nicest bunch of guys, then. You get the idea. They're basically your classic bad pro-athletes. They're arrogant and overbearing. Particularly, all of them pretty much are. But we have the leader of the Scumdogs, Deathmug over here, who decided after he was banned from sports, he took his other band friends and tried to take over the world because, well, they were going to get money some way. Deathmug is a parody of various villains from 80s cartoons. Well, like Cobra Commander and Serpentor from G.I. Joe, he's a parody of them. Like Cobra Commander from G.I. Joe, he's got a metal mask. Like Serpentor, he's got gold on him. And he's purple like the Shredder from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. You see him over here. Well, he's fighting his archenemy, Buick Starpoon, who's basically, well, the guy with the pink pompadour hair over there. He's a G.I. Joe parody along with all the other members of his team in the Space Forces. They go and fight the Scumdogs to save the world, but they're more like parodies. They're like the more overbearing military types, and they have big egos, and they just go around blowing stuff up, and so they're a bit dumb. But they do their job. Buick Starpoon is basically, as I said, also a parody of space captain kind of heroes, like Buzz Lightyear or Buck Rogers, those kinds of heroes. Notice the uniform. Anyone wearing a similar uniform to Buick Starpoon is on his team in the Space Forces on this cover. And because he's a G.I. Joe parody, he's got a military specialty. Buick Starpoon's specialty is that he's a captain. He captains a starship and stuff like that. And he's overbearing and arrogant and like that. When fighting his archenemy Buick Starpoon, who's basically equally stupid and overbearing and stuff like that, and arrogant. But Buick Starpoon is funny because he's a captain and people pretty much look at him to go and save the day. Now, the guy over here, the other members of his team in the Space Force, is the guy over here with the mohawk is named Roadhog. His specialty in the military is that he's an army guy. All right. This bald guy with a gun down here, his name is, well, Beach Pounder. He's another member of Buick Starpoon's team. His military specialty is that he's a Marine, just another Marine. While this guy back here in the red uniform, driving that vehicle and stuff like that, his name is Blast Tank. He's a heavy vehicle specialist, a tanker. Looks pretty good. Now, this cover is only one of 3 different variant covers when my Indiegogo goes live and stuff, which you'll be able to back. Now we're going to look at Girl Friday. Girl Friday is another member of the Wild Rangers. That's the name of Buick Starpoon's team in the Space Forces. She was assigned as the second in command of Buick Starpoon because while the Wild Rangers go out and fight the Scumdogs and save the day, they're just idiots who destroy everything. The collateral damage they do is so horrendous, so they assigned Girl Friday there to basically rein them in. She's basically a babysitter. And Girl Friday hates them because she thinks her career in the military is over because she's basically just a babysitter now. Right? Now we're going to look at Death Mug's henchmen, because in all 80s cartoons, the main villain, his henchmen, the guys who do his bidding, they would always be total idiots. These are Death Mug's idiots. The blue guy with the top hat is Murder Mouth, and the pink guy down here is Sloppy. They're a couple of idiots that can't do anything right, and they're basically a parody of every henchman from an 80s cartoon. Here we have Hair Metal Doctor, a parody of Dr. Mindbender from G.I. Joe, a mad scientist. But my mad scientist is also crossed over with a hair metal musician, because I thought that would be awesome to have as a villain. You see, he does mad science. He thinks of all the mad gadgets and machines the scumdogs use to try and take over the world. But he also does it while rocking out. See the lightning coming out of his guitar? Looks pretty awesome. He does it while being a hair metal musician. That's hair metal. He's a mad scientist who's a hair metal doctor. Well, you get it. He does it. It looks awesome. Here we have Miss Breasty Melons. Miss Breasty Melons is a parody of the Baroness from G.I. Joe. But unlike the Baroness, she's a party girl who just wants to have fun. So unlike the Baroness, she became a villain because she thought it'd be fun and she'd have a good time and stuff like that. So come and read about her in my graphic novel, okay? Now the hair metal doctor pinup and the Miss Breasty pinups here will be included with other pinups in my graphic novel, along with the will be included in my graphic novel for you all to back when my Indiegogo goes live, when Scumdogs goes live and stuff. But I will also get these pinups to you on T-shirts from Crypto Fashion as soon as I'm able to make them. Okay, that was fun looking at this. Now. We looked at this. Let me exit out of these, and we'll look at more fantastic, cryptid and alien encounters. Ooh, legendary stories and like that. But first, maybe we'll go over to Indiegogo and check out if there are any new Indiegogo's up. All right. There's Stomp 2 graphic comic book. Looks pretty good. There's Dragon Rage, second chance, not bad. Oh, it looks like this. Laura Vex, Vampires of Mars. Ooh, homage cover. Ah. Ooh, that looks good. A set of collectible variant covers featuring homage cover of Vampirotica's Luxuria by Kirk Lindo. I like it. Nice. That's nice. Look at that artwork. PDF edition. I like the artwork. That is naked cover as well, and that's pretty good as well. That cover looks pretty good. It's already going for $500. It's already made $310. That's good. Let's take a look at this trailer. It's pretty good, huh? Let me see that part again, huh? Let me see that part again. This is good. I love this, what I'm seeing here. All right. Luxuria Vampirotica cover and stuff like that. Luxuria Vampirus of Mars cover. It looks great. Go back it on. It's on Indiegogo. Now, let me go over here. By the way, folks, hit that like button for me if you've not, as well as please go share this video on social media. Okay. Ooh, we have 2 likes already. And as I said, we're going to be looking at, mythic alien encounters tonight, as well as cryptid encounters. Mainly because there's a few new stories I've seen. Or let's say about the bizarre human encounter of Carl Hagedorn, a very famous encounter. There's also been other encounters as well. Recently as well, mainly because I wanted to do this stream tonight talking about this stuff, because recently there's been a news story, maybe even a video, about how a gray alien and a dogman have been seen working together, much like how Bigfoot and a hellhound have been seen together and stuff. That is very strange. Why would these creatures be working together? What do dogmen and gray aliens have to do with each other? Are they actually just shapeshifters and they're just taking on these appearances? They're basically full humans. Thing with Bigfoot and the hellhound. Or are they like pets? Or maybe they're sentient aliens. Who knows? But I would like to see if anyone knows how to get that video to see it. But there's also other great cryptid encounters, like we're going to look at right here. In October 1974, with another harsh Wyoming winter on the way, with food prices rising higher than most Americans could afford. If I've looked at this story before, I'm sorry, but I'm just going to go over this again. I'm pretty sure I haven't talked about this, except maybe not actually seen the story, but talked about this guy before. 41-year-old Carl Hagedorn prepared to venture into the woodlands and wilderness in an attempt to hunt down a large chunk of his family's meat supply for the following few months. He had done so several times before, but with ample space still in the freezer, which had to feed himself, his wife, and 4 children, he ventured out again. On this particular hunting mission, however, things would take a bizarre and otherworldly turn. Hayden's account is one of the most fascinating on record, and one that offers some physical evidence of, at least the very least, a straight incident occurring. Furthermore, it is another case that offers details that are found in seemingly unconnected encounters, both across distance and time. Indeed, if there's any truth at all in the account of Carl Hagedorn, and all the indications are the incident is genuine, then might, will give us some clues as to why the UFO phenomenon exists and why it is so persistent. Looks good. An unexpected afternoon hunting. As of the 25th October began, Carl Hagedorn was not actually planning to go hunting at all, at least not initially. He was preparing to go to work as normal when he received a phone call from one of his crewmen for the afternoon shift. He was sick and wouldn't be into work. Hagedorn, reasoning that he wouldn't be able to get anything done without his sick crew member, took the day off also. With the afternoon free, he decided to venture out into the Wyoming countryside looking to hunt elk. He would set out to Carbon Country into McCarthy Canyon with his truck packed up for the afternoon. However, along the way, he encountered some fellow hunters who appeared to have trouble with their vehicle. He pulled over to assist the pair and consequently began talking with them. They would inform him they placed deep in the Medicine Bow National Forest, where there was much more elk and where the hunting was much better. It was a remote, little-known spot, but due to his kindness, the stranded hunters were happy to divulge the information to Hayden. Well, actually, that's kind of suspect, because this guy encountered aliens, and he turned up to a bunch of hunters who were basically in trouble, and they point him to the direct area where he was going to be kidnapped by aliens. It almost sounds planned, doesn't it? Ooh, that is weird. I mean, he didn't encounter these guys, and yes, they probably were legit, but it just seems strange that this guy goes to a remote, secluded area that basically has the best hunting spot in the entire land, and he coincidentally he gets there and gets gone. He gets taken by aliens to outer space. Very weird. Very, very, very interesting. Following his getting their vehicle started, he set off again. However, this time he's changed his destination. He would now head to the Medicine Bow National Forest instead. It wasn't too far out, he reasoned. He was around 40 miles from his hometown of Orleans. By the time he arrived at the destination, it was late afternoon, just short of 4 p.m. There it was still light, but it was about to go into decline. The blood floated like a butterfly. Upon exiting his truck and preparing his hunting gear, Hayden would spot another fellow hunter, his name Gary Eaton. The pair spoke for a few minutes before Gary informed him he was going higher into the forest than Hayden, but that he might scare down some elk for him. As his friend went on his way, Hayden made his way to the location the stranded hunters had informed him about. As he did, he came across a concealed area behind a hill. It was shortly after entering this area that a sudden burst of movement out of the corner of his eye caught his attention. He focused on his surrounding and spotted a small herd of deer. He was slightly above the elk, 5 of them in total. With his hunting rifle raised, he took aim at one of the animals and fired. However, not only did the kickback from the gun not happen, there was no sound whatsoever. At the same time, Hayden had the end of the rifle in his sights and claims to have witnessed the bullet leave the barrel and travel through the air so slowly it floated like a butterfly. It would eventually drop to the ground about 50 feet in front of him. He suddenly became aware of silence all around him. Not a sound came from anywhere or anything. Hayden could sense a feeling of static electricity that you often get before a fierce thunderstorm. Coming to his senses, he stepped forward to retrieve the fallen 7mm bullet. And I gotta tell you, the alien we're going to be seeing here looks a lot like a fairy to me, mainly because it says that the alien he encountered had deer antlers. It also had a drill hand, but hey, it sounded very fairy-like to me. He noticed that the lead part of it was no longer in the bullet, which itself, or the casing of it, was misshapen considerably. Suddenly, a twig snapped somewhere nearby. And here's what we look at the alien here. This is the drawing he drew. Look at it. So look at apparently had small deer antlers. At least that's what it looked like. Different here, but you get the idea. It looks sort of fairy-like, doesn't it? He thought it might be some kind of weird monster, but fair folk, or maybe something like that. Hayden would spin around immediately, seeing the figure in front of him. Thinking it was a fellow hunter, he lowered his gun quickly as the strange figure emerged from the shadows of the trees. However, he realized something was terribly wrong. The figure was most definitely humanoid and male, but it wasn't human. Hayden would later recall the figure had no detectable ears, with very small eyes and no eyebrows. He also recalled that his hair was coarse, like straw growing out of his head. It had a slit-like mouth that exposed 3 extremely large human-like teeth. Perhaps most bizarre were the antenna-like objects on each side of its forehead. Hayden would add no chin was visible. His face just seemed to blend right into his throat. He had no jawbone. He would estimate the mystery male creature to be around 6 feet in height and adorned a one-piece, light-fitting black suit similar to a wetsuit scuba divers wear. On the chest was a harness that crisscrossed each other. The figure also wore a metallic belt with a 6-pointed yellow star. Well, from where the buckle should have been. Already unnerved and bored on, yeah. Now, I only heard that it had deer antlers and stuff. Maybe I'm wrong about that, but I definitely think I heard it had deer antlers. On panic, when Hayden noticed the creature's right arm, it was all he could do to prevent absolute terror from gripping him. Where the hand should have been, a drill-like device attached or blended onto the wrist. He looked at the left arm, noticing there was nothing at all on the end of the blunt limb. The creature moved forward, directly approaching Hayden. Bracing himself for the worst, it was a disorienting surprise when the creature asked matter-of-factly, "How are you doing?" The transparent cube, already struggling to keep his composure and process what was happening when the strange creature asked Hayden if he was hungry. If it simply threw even more before he could answer the question, a clear package levitated towards him. Seemingly at the command of the strange visitor, Hayden reached for it, opened the cellophane-like package, and revealing 4 pills inside, the creature told Hayden that one of them would last him for days and he should take one now. Without question, Hayden reached in for one of the pills, placed it in his mouth, and swallowed it. He then Well, that's kind of stupid. You don't know what you're actually eating. You only this sounds like something that like you're just asking to be drugged. He then placed the package into his pocket. The creature said his name was also one. As he moved, Hayden became aware of a transparent cube-shaped object on the ground behind the figure. He would estimate it to be around 5 feet high and wide, and around 7 feet tall. Although he was not told so, Hayden somehow realized this was not the strange figure's ship. As if readying his mind, the creature asked him, "Do you want to come along?" Although he didn't specifically answer yes, he must have just gestured as much. The next thing he knew, he was inside the cube. Next to him was, well, in the cube. And as I understand, he was also tied up. Next to him was also one, struggling to understand how they could both fit inside such a small object. Hayden looked around in awe, but still with a persistent panic bubbling away inside of him. When he noticed the 5 elk were also in the cube with him, his own memories and senses began to become fuzzy. He would recall, though, that they were motionless, paralyzed. It was then realized he was in a chair with bands holding his arms down firmly. Yeah. I planned 163,000 light years from Earth. He could feel that the craft was lifting off the ground. He also noticed another of the creatures enter the room. It approached him, fitting a bizarre helmet-like object to his head. The underside of the craft was clear, and underneath him, Hayden could see a planet-shaped object similar to a basketball. It was a planet, but it wasn't Earth or any other planet he knew of. They would enter the mysterious world, and although Hayden's memories of it are hazy at best, but what he does recall is fascinating. Most prominent in his mind was a megalithic tower that dwarfed all around it. Would recall that all around this tower were revolving patterns of multicolored lights. The lights were so intense that Hayden could keep his eyes open to look at them. Apparently unaffected by their guests' discomfort, the figure brought the craft to land at the base of the tower. Hayden could see the alien would whirl through the transparent walls of the craft. He was amazed. Then at the front of them, outside the craft, were several humans talking to each other, just as they would on Earth. He claimed there were 2 young girls, one around 7 years old and one in their early teens, a couple around 18 years of age, and an older man in his 50s. As he watched the scene outside the ship, his host approached him once more. They were claimed on a planet 163,000 light years from Earth. Hayden questioned if the creature had meant light years, to which he replied the passage of time is different for them. Also, one then motioned that they should go, and Hayden was led inside the yeah. He said he saw Earth people, or that he saw humans there. He claimed there were several humans talking to each other. Yeah, couple around 18. No, yeah, you get the idea. He saw humans there and stuff. So that's also very strange. But this is a great story, and I wanted to basically share this with you. I think I've talked about this before and stuff like that, about how this guy encountered this alien and stuff like that. How he was a hunter and stuff like that, and, well, he wound up on an alien planet. This is entertaining as hell. Now, let's go over here. Look at that. Interesting. Go back over here. Have you guys hit that like button for me? If you have not, please do so. Please hit that like button. It really helps me fight the algorithm. Now, folks, let's see. Let's go back to where we were. All right. They were, yeah. Let's get back to this. Watch his host approached him once more. They were, he claimed, on a planet 163 light years. I didn't question if the creature had meant light years. The pastor like that. Should go. All right. Oh yeah, we need to go down here. He was taken into an elevator, which took them to the room with a platform in the center of it. He was told to stand on the platform. As he moved, he noticed he was not walking but floating. Although he didn't understand how, upon stepping on the raised platform, a grassy shield appeared from out of the wall and stopped in front of Hayden, evidently performing some kind of scan on him. After 5 minutes or so, the shield retracted away from him and back into the wall. Then his host informed him rather bluntly that he was to be taken back to Earth, where they had found him, as he didn't suit their purpose. What's extremely interesting about the details is, just short of a decade later, an elderly gentleman in England named Alfred would receive almost the exact same response to a similar examination on on a landed UFO. It is highly unlikely that Butu was aware of Hayden's encounter and perhaps endorses what Hayden believes the purpose was a breeding program. Before he knew it, he was back inside the cube with no real memory of how he had arrived there. He did recall, however, also when marrying his primitive weapon before handing him back his rifle. He also rather bizarrely perhaps remembers his host informing him that their home planet had no fish in their seas, which was one of the things about Earth that their people most liked. As they prepared to take off, the creature took back the pills, and as Hayden would now no longer need them. This was his last memory of the cosmic encounter before he found himself back on Earth. Yeah, this is interesting. Disoriented on the verge of, Here's another picture. Look at that. On the verge of mentally breaking down, Hayden didn't question how his truck had seemingly been moved several miles from where he had parked it to the spot where he encountered the humanoid creature, where this creature started to him. "We'll see you." He realized he was floating slightly above the ground. The next thing he knew, the craft was gone. He was standing on the edge of a rocky cliff edge, although the drop was nearly 10 feet or so. He was not prepared for it when he landed. On the ground below, he would sustain considerable injuries. Perhaps he was also suffered a concussion in the fall, as his next memory is of struggling alongside a dirt road, unable to remember what happened or where he was. He eventually relocated his vehicle, although due to his shredded memory, he didn't realize it was his truck. He was simply using it to take shelter. When a voice came over the radio, he quickly picked up the receiver and asked for help. Unsure of his location, he would recall a sign that started he was at the North Bunny National Forest. A search party would eventually locate him just before midnight. When they did, they were at a loss as to how he had managed to drive the truck there. Furthermore, there were no fire trucks anywhere nearby, despite the muddy ground. And just to add another twist to the whole encounter, as the search party was looking for Hayden, they would encounter strange green, red, and white flashing lights in the skies overhead. Hayden's wife had joined the search effort. However, Hayden at first failed to recognize her. When he finally did respond to the search party, he exclaimed, "Well, they took my elk." Hayden would eventually go with his wife to a patrol car and was taken to the nearest hospital. The rest of the search unit, with great difficulty, managed to remove his truck from the mysterious location. As well as the injuries sustained in the fall, doctors would notice how bloodshot his eyes were. Further tests would reveal more intriguing results. Though his blood, for example, appeared to be enriched with nutrients, vitamins, more so than the average person, even stranger, scarring in his lungs from exposure to tuberculosis had seemingly disappeared. In short, Dr. Turango, who examined him, would state he's now a A1 super condition. It is hard to imagine that this transformation isn't connected to the encounter. It was the following day when Hayden began to remember the encounter in full. With his consent to do so, the authorities would inform the press of the incident. This in turn would attract members of the UFO community, researchers, and enthusiasts to seek out Hayden to hear more of the mind-bending events. Earth is unlike else. Earth, huh? One of those who took an interest in Hayden's case was Leo Spinkle, who was adept at using hypnotic regression to unlock memories of such encounters. Although much of what occurred was already known to Hayden, the season in early November 1974 did manage to reveal some of the more interesting aspects of the instance. 1974 incident, and quite possibly offers us an insight into why such visitations are happening. According to Hayden, the visitations to Earth are essentially food-gathering missions. Many of the animals and fish on Earth do not exist anywhere else in the universe. Groups of such animals, such as the elk on this location, go to their home world for breeding purposes. He also stated again that humans go to this world are there for similar reasons. However, no further information came to mind regarding the particular or details of the program. Hayden did state, however, that he believed the reason he did suit his purpose was due to him having had a vasectomy several years previously. Incidentally, Spinkle would find his revelation that Hayden's purportedly and sincerely the events he experienced, aside from bizarrely crumpled bullets they retained. It is possible to explain the vanishing of the lung scar. It is impossible to explain the vanishing of the lung scars that are on his medical record. Then there is the impossible location of his truck that the search party never could explain how it came to be in such an inaccessible spot. Several years later, 1978, Hayden underwent a polygraph test. He passed it unquestionably, with the report stating something utterly fantastic did happen in this man's life. The test proves it's beyond doubt. Well, yeah, that is cool, huh? I wanted to share that story with you guys because it's very interesting. What do you guys think, huh? Leave me a few chats and stuff like that. Feel free to do so. I love to hear from you guys. As well as please hit that like button for me. It really helps me fight the algorithm. As well as please go and share this video on social media. Share it on Twitter. Share it on Facebook. Share it on Twitter. Share it on Facebook. Here's some more humanoid stuff. Like recently, guys, if you see the certain of UFOs, they're almost antichrist. Please, antichrist. As soon as possible, I guess. Right. How aggressive is Bigfoot? That's a YouTube video. Yeah, looking for the video caught by two people in a cabin, gray alien, and a dogman saying. Yeah, I kind of want to see that video too. Here's this video, Ghost Baby of TikTok. Maybe I don't think I want to look at any TikTok videos. Maybe I should. Where's the Moon Project? Right. Bow-legged humanoid. Maybe I should look at this. But I decided I was going to look at more famous humanoid as well as cryptid encounters. The Washington State elk abduction incident. There's another that. Being multiple witness to the encounter. Furthermore, animal and cow mutilations are known to have been reported in the state, Washington previously. Bizarre accounts of alien monsters from outer space. Oh, should I look at this one? So, there's human cattle mutilation. The ground claims. Monsters, creatures of the deep. Look at that. Paranormal gateways, UFOs, and cattle mutilations. The mystery of the San Luis Valley. Look at that. Let me go over here. Let's go look at the bizarre accounts of alien monsters from outer space. I kind of want to check out this story here. While many of the UFO community tend to distance themselves from some of the outlandish claims of fanged monsters or even clawed robots, often with glowing eyes arriving on Earth seemingly from space, it is technologically advanced craft and then processing to attack those in nearby vicinity. The fact is, there are many such claims on record. Indeed, we have examined some of these before, such as the Hopkinsville incident or the Parksville River abduction, both of which, incidentally, are largely considered very credible cases. The latter incident in particular is of interest here simply due to the time it took place at the start of the 70s, 1973. Although such cases of fanged and or clawed alien monsters can be found in accounts from most decades, it would seem particularly heavy wave took place during the 70s, and what's more, they would take place in all over the planet, from the United States to Japan to Brazil. All right. So while we should perhaps have a cautious pinch of salt at the ready, these claims shouldn't be dismissed as freely as often are. Here are just three similarly outlandish incidents that occurred in the 1970s and all from different regions of the planet. Just a moment, folks. I'll be right back. Just give me a moment. Sorry about that, folks. Just needed to go get something done. I needed a drink of water. I also want, I just wanted to get a drink of water and have a little fun. As we looked at this part, let's go look into these stories now. Let's see. Should I look at this one first? Maybe I should look at, maybe go down here. Look at the other stories. The encounter of Antonio Laruba. Maybe. Should I look at this one? There's this story too. The Space Brains and Abduction Incident. Okay, what is truly one of the most outlandish claims of an alien abduction occurred around 2 a.m. 17th August. in the Palo Verdes region of California. Two men in their 20s, Peter Rodriguez and John Hodges. John Hodges, huh? And two men in their 20s, John Hodges, were about to drive home after spending the evening at a friend's house. However, their night was about to take a suddenly strange turn as Hodges sparked the engine into life and flicked the headlights on. Something came into view in the middle of the road in front of them, not quite believing their eyes. The road were two large brain-type creatures, bluish in color and with a strange vapor around them. However, they were most definitely alive. Whatever they were, one of them even had the rough shape of a human torso. Each had what appeared to be a red eye. After stepping back to their senses, the two men felt a wave of absolute fear wash over them. Hodges now slammed his foot on the gas pedal, pressing it down as hard as he could. Their respective houses were merely a block or two away from their friends within several minutes. After dropping Rodriguez on his front door, Hodges arrived home. However, when he looked at his clock on the wall upon walking inside of his amazement and disbelief, it was about 4:30 a.m. and how a 10-minute journey taken them over 2 hours. He racked his brains over and over just what had happened in those 2 hours and why couldn't he could not remember them. Take the time to understand. It would be 5 years before Hodges would finally undergo hypnotic regression in order to unlock his mind and reveal the event of the early hours of the bizarre August morning in 71. What's more, it would appear that the experience happened to Hodges alone, seemingly taking place after Rodriguez had left the car outside his house. Almost as soon as he was under, he would recall telepathic communication between the two bizarre brain-like entities. This began when he first saw them in front of the car. He would state they said to him, "Take the time to understand yourselves. Time draws near when you shall need to. You shall not remember this until we meet again." And after that, Hodges had come to his senses along with his friend and would drive away as fast as he could. After dropping Rodriguez home, Hodges did indeed arrive at his own house without incident. However, when he dropped from the car door, the two bizarre brain creatures were waiting for him. The panic in him was evident, so much so that at the time he would seemingly black out. Then the next thing he knew is where he was walking in a strange central room. He noticed that there were banks of computers all around the room. He could also see the brain creatures too. However, when he surveyed his surroundings, there was another group of entities also inside. Closed mind lead to our collective. He would describe these creatures as humanoid, around 7 feet tall, with leathery gray skin. They also appear to have 6 fingers on each hand, with webbing in between each digit. That's odd. 6 digits, huh? Much like the 6-fingered giants. Old legends about giants said that they had 6 fingers, and they were 7 feet tall. 6-fingered digits, huh? Although he could recall how the information came to him, these humanoids would inform him that the brain creatures were simply organic translation devices that allowed them to communicate telepathically. The next thing he recalled was a sense of images shown to him on one of the computer screens. Interestingly and similar in detail to many of the accounts from the 50s and early 60s, the overriding message was of a concern for humanity and in fact that too much power was concealed in specific locations around the planet. It isn't clear whether this is ever just some kind of buildup of natural power of the earth, or most likely a concentration of political and military power and influence. How does we call the message? Then we should. Time to know yourselves. The time draws near when you shall need. Take the time to know yourselves. The time draws near when you shall need. What does this mean? As for Hodges, he would recall a strange buzzing sensation run through him before waking up in his car outside his house. As writer Rob Murphy asked, might these apparent concerns actually be part of some cosmic psychological warfare, one designed to collectively disarm us and ultimately weaken ourselves against such an alien invasion? The idea itself, I know it does sound like it could happen like that, doesn't it? The idea itself sounds preposterous. However, our collective refusal to confront and understand such possibilities may prove to be our very Achilles heel. Surely it is better to investigate and rule out the outrageous than to dismiss without investigation what could prove to be important understanding of our collective existence. Okay, let's go back up here. Let's see. Perhaps one of the most intriguing claims of such encounters comes from Kofu City, Japan. Well, Kofu City. On the evening 23rd, 75, just before 7 p.m., 7-year-old boys, Masato Kawano were rolling skating near a local housing estate. Suddenly, each of them noticed two strange orange crafts glaring high above them. They continued to watch for several moments, each in awe and amazement at the scenes unfolding before them. Then one of the crafts took off in the direction of Mount Otago. The other, however, began to descend towards them, eventually settling in a vineyard behind the housing estate. As the craft moved over them, each of the boys could hear an electric ticking sound that some researchers claim was similar to a Geiger counter. The two boys kicked off their roller skates and ran toward the vineyard, eager to get a closer look at the bizarre craft. When they had it back in their sights, it now shined a brilliant silver as it remained still on the ground. On top of the disc-like base was a definite dome. On the underside were the three ball-shaped legs, upon which the craft appeared to rest. Kawano would each recall seeing strange characters symbols on the side of the craft, which had a metallic appearance. Then a ramp or ladder emerged from the side of the craft. For the first time, the boys began to feel decisively scared. A humanoid glowing silver suit with metal wing. Both boys watched, neither daring to make a sound as they watched a strange humanoid creature with the long arms begin to descend the ramp inside the craft. The boys could see another identical creature. According to him, later reports from the two boys, the creatures were approximately According to later reports from the boys, the creatures were approximately 4 feet tall and wore a glowing silver suit. They also had large heads, equally large pointed ears. And most frightening of all, to the boys through were apparent sharp metal fangs. As well as equally large pointed ears, dark brown, leathery, wrinkled skin. From its mount, furthermore, its feet that ended in two big toes. That sounds like a very strange creature, doesn't it? So it was 4 feet tall, had basically metal fangs and stuff like that, and also had glowing silver suit and brown leathery skin. Very, very weird. Very, very weird. At first, it appeared the creature was obviously oblivious to the two young boys as it scanned its surroundings calmly. Then it suddenly reached forward and placed a hand on Yamahata's shoulder. As it did so, a noise came from it that the boys would recall as sounding like a tape recording running backward. Yamahata suddenly fell to the ground, unable to move. His friend immediately reached for him and pulled him up, dragging him away as quickly as he could move. They didn't stop to look back and soon reached their housing estate. They each suddenly ran to inform their parents of the bizarre incidents. Okay, that's interesting. Several minutes after the boys had crashed into their respective apartments, their mothers, with their sons with them, would meet up would meet up on the land at the back of the complex. They then, with the two young boys leading the way, half scared and half excited, animated, set off to the vineyard. When they arrived, while the strange creature was gone, the craft itself remained, and it had now changed back to the bright, sparkling orange colors as opposed to the gold metallic silver when the boys had approached it. The two youngsters urged their parents to go forward with them to investigate. However, each mother grabbed her child, deciding perhaps wisely to maintain their distance. The group remained watching the display for around 5 minutes. Then, without worrying, the craft shot straight upward in a flash of bright light, so bright, in fact, that each of the witnesses was forced to look away and shield their eyes. Despite their surreal encounter, the two young boys would go to school as normal the following day. When they did, however, they were eager to speak of the previous evening's events. Indeed, fellow students and teachers sat captivated while the two boys spoke of their class and drew pictures of what they had seen. Instantly, perhaps encouraged by tales of classmates of the two boys, an 8-year-old Ichiko would claim to have also witnessed the glowing saucer in the air while he was in the back seat of his parents' car driving along the Kofu Bay Pass. Perhaps spurred on by the apparent honesty and promptness of the two boys, the headmaster of the school, Nobuyosuke, would organize their own investigation of the location. Physical evidence of the scene. Well, it might seem on the surface to be an ill-advised idea to investigate the journey to the vineyard behind two young boys in an apartment building would prove to be of importance in terms of evidence gathered at the scene. For example, they would discover two concrete posts, each solid concrete posts. Two concrete posts, each solid and far too heavy for the two boys to move, both pushed over. Furthermore, they would discover different markings on the ground where the boys claimed the craft had landed and using a basic radioactivity. All right. What about asking their parents, huh? Ask them as well. Well, you get the idea. Measuring device, one of the members of the makeshift investigation team would pick up a substantially higher readings of radioactivity within the circle of the landing site. Perhaps realizing the potential seriousness of the situation, the two boys would face intense questions separately from the teachers and their parents. When UFO investigator Masaru was asked to look into the case, he also questioned the boys. At length, not once did they deviate from their original statements, despite the multiple times they told it. An official explanation for the sighting claims of what the boys saw in their air was a YS-11 plane, which would fly at this altitude. The boys saw the orange light. However, the only explanation for the landing of the creature itself seems to revolve around hallucination or hoax, neither of which is likely, especially given the corroborating witnesses, at least to the craft itself. Yeah, an special explanation for the same claims that the boys were saw in the air was a UY-11 plane, which would fly at the altitude that the boys saw the orange light. However, the only explanation for the landing, the creature itself, seems to revolve around hallucination or hoax, neither of which is likely, especially given, with the corroborating witnesses, Lying liars. It's all they can do. Jeez. Basically lie about it. Actually seeing aliens here. And they actually have a lot of physical proof as well as radioactivity. How do you explain the radioactivity? How can they come up with such ludicrous explanations for what happened, huh? Unbelievable. Let's see. Ooh, Timothy Olsen. Hello, Timothy Olsen. Sure. How does my pic seem different? Did you send me something, Timothy Olsen? Let me take a look at anything you sent me, huh? Timothy Lee Olsen sent a link. I don't see any picture, Timothy. Do you mean on your I get it. Oh, I see. You said the picture you have here on your chat. Huh. It does look different, I tell you. Looks interesting. Timothy Olsen. It looks very interesting. We're talking about aliens and cryptids again tonight, folks, and having some fun, mainly because I'm going to talk about how recently I talked on my last few live streams. I was talking about how Bigfoot and apparently hellhounds worked well, as well as how gray aliens and dogmen apparently work together, as well as Bigfoot and hellhounds apparently are working together for some odd reason. I mean, there's stories about this stuff. Why do these creatures meet up with each other? And that's why I was talking about that earlier, as well as talking about other famous encounters and stuff like that. Now we're looking at this. So it's very interesting. Oh, by the way, folks, if you hit that like button for me, let's see. Ooh, if you have not hit that like button for me, folks, please do so. It really helps me fight the algorithm, okay? As well as please go share this video on social media. All right, let's go back over here. Let's see. I mean, how long is this stories here and stuff? We looked at 2 of these and stuff like that, but we're coming to the end of this live stream soon. It's taking a bit longer than usual. I guess I could look at a few more of these stories. Oh, very long, right down here. Dover Demon, it looks like. I could look at this. Or I could just go to the Dover Demon one and finish this story off. Maybe I'll just go to the Dover Demon one because it's a more famous encounter. As I said, I was going to do more famous encounters. The truly unique and mysterious Dover demon encounters, although it perhaps a little known case, even outside of paranormal and cryptological circles, I suppose. The case from the spring of 1977 is arguably one of the most intriguing and incredible events of such events. According to the course, during the course of 2 evenings, 4 separate... Yeah, and the Dover demon looks very much like a gray alien. 4 separate intriguing, incredible events and arguably intriguing, incredible event, credible of such events on record. During the course of 2 evenings, 4 separate individuals witnessed what appeared to be the same strange creature before the mysterious being simply disappeared into the world of legend, never to be seen again. That is strange. The Dover demon, only seen once, but okay, seen twice before disappearing. Are you sure never seen again? Because the Dover demon looks very much like a gray alien. I mean, really, it looks like that. The Dover demon, another cryptid, looks very weird and very interesting, as well as fun as hell to read these stories, I have to say, folks. I looked at a very few more stories. But yeah, the Dover demon there. As I've said before, gray aliens, I think, there's a very good chance that gray aliens are actually goblins. For God's sakes, because a lot of these alien encounters look like very much like creatures we've seen from mythic lore and stuff. So I'd say gray aliens are goblins. And this does look like a goblin, because remember the Hopkinsville goblins? They were gray-skinned. They might have had big floppy ears, but looked almost exactly like this guy. Or like classic gray aliens. Now, so what do you think, folks? I can take a few minutes to basically wonder about this, why we encounter so many creatures that look like gray aliens, and why they all look similar to each other. Are they all the same species? Are they all goblins? A lot of different encounters. There's also the encounters of Whitley Strieber in his communion book, where he encountered little blue alien creatures. How they can be miscued with, well, the fair folk or ultra-terrestrials, like goblins as well, or kobolds or goblins. You get the idea. I kind of want to go back and read this other story as well. I'm taking too much time here. Let's see. The encounter of Antonio LaRubia at around 2:30 a.m. on 1577. Antonio was awoken by a hat-shaped object, which descended out of the skies and landed on a field near his home. He would go to investigate the strange occurrence, leaving his home and discreetly making his way towards the field. He would estimate the object to around 250 feet in width, was a lead color. Okay, there was that as well. Lead color, huh? And basically encountered a bunch of robots or something very similar to them. That story's not very famous and stuff like that. But very entertaining as well. Here's I think I got something in this stream off with. I could look at the Dover Demon one, but here I have totally bonkers reports of Bigfoot. Just let it load up. Come on. Taking it. Come on. Of course, you're doing this right now as I'm trying to end this. Of course. You just do this right to me right now. Totally bonkers reports of paranormal Bigfoot. Okay, I'm going to end this live stream on. The other ones I could have, but I've talked about the Dover Demon before and stuff like that. And here we have Bigfoot. Let's have some fun with this story, huh? The other stories didn't look all that good. I can go back to the Dover Demon later on in another live stream. Let's have some fun. By far, the most well-known and most widely cited cryptid is no doubt Bigfoot and other similar hairy hominids throughout the world. These cases run the range, and there's a good chance that Bigfoot is a freaking, troll and stuff like that. Range and come from people all ages, works of life. And come from people People of all ages and walks of life from across a vast spectrum, yet on some occasions things can get very weird indeed. While the vast majority of Bigfoot or hairy humanoid sightings seem to suggest something like a large ape, an actual animal, basically of flesh and blood. I might not. I might not finish this story today, folks, because I'm coming to the end of this live stream. But hey, I'll try to read a bit of this and see what we find. What we find, huh? Blood creature. Sometimes these sightings go fully off the rails and then steadily more fringe. And here we will take a look at some of the more bizarre of these, from levitating Bigfoot to those who vanish, go invisible, disappear into portals, or come out of spaceships. To get your seatbelt ready, because we are going for a ride well into the domain of some of the very weirdest Bigfoot reports there are. One very bizarre case comes from the files of writer and researcher mysterious Albert Roselius and seems to concern hairy hominids that can actually levitate. The incident allegedly happened in 1997. Out in the remote wilderness of the Cheryblansky region of the Urals of Russia, here lodged with Cheryblansky, Here lodged within the dense trees was a military radar outpost, and in the early morning hours, one of the soldiers stationed there was one of collecting firewood on a cold but clear day. There was supposedly lots of snow on the ground that morning, but a clear trail led to the pre-prepared pile of firewood on site. As the soldier began to gather the wood, he then noticed something very, very peculiar in the form of two hulking hairy hominids. Covered in dirty reddish hair, staying there within the fence perimeter. One of them are gigantic, 7 feet tall, and the other much shorter, just 7 feet tall. And the witness could later speculate that they had likely approached the installation, drawing the smell of breakfast cooking in the nearby kitchen. The odd report continues as follows. The soldiers thought that the taller entity was female and the second shorter one probably a child. Both entities had penetrated inside the perimeter of the unit, possibly attracted by the smell of the kitchen area. The witness was carrying an axe and for some strange reason was not afraid, only curious, and walked towards the creatures in an attempt to obtain a better look. Amazingly, he wasn't able to approach the pair since both constantly seemed to move ahead of him. He couldn't make out any ground between them, so he increased his pace, but at the same time, the entities increased theirs, moving quickly away from him. Finally, moving faster and faster, the entities jumped into the air, and momentarily, the witness thought that the French would hinder their escape, but to his amazement, he saw both of the hairy humanoids simply zoomed into the air and levitated over the fence. The hairy humanoids then flew away and vanished above the tall pine trees in the forest which surrounded the military installation. The witness then stopped his pursuit, returned back to his fence, and saw 2 tracks of 2 footprints which were left in the snow. The layer of snow was thick and strong. Evidently, the tall hairy humanoid was very heavy. However, the footprints seemed to become dimmer and less deep as they neared the fence, indicating that the humanoids apparently began to ascend into the air. Whatever happened here, reports of flying and levitating Bigfoot are not something you see every day. If that isn't strange enough for you, then how about Bigfoot that seems to have the ability to vanish, turn invisible, or otherwise exit reality? From the site of Phantoms and Monsters, we have a report from a witness named John Witch, who says this happened on his home in a rugged area of upstate New York, the Aryan Docks, from August 2018. The witness claims that he often leaves out food for the various wild animals to come eat. Such as birds, squirrels, chipmunks, rabbits, deer, fox, raven, and crow. He says that it was his normal routine to go out into that large rural yard and watch the animals come in to feed. And on this morning, he was doing this as usual when he heard an unusual snoring sound, which he first took to be from a deer, but would soon prove to be much more bizarre than that. The witness explains. What could it be, folks, huh? Now, I need to step away for one more moment. I'll be right back. All right, I'm back. Let's get back to this. Let me go see if there are a few more chats. Now, people watching. It's pretty good. If you have not hit that like button for me yet, folks, please do so. The woods have this morning lights shining on the line of trees, but beyond that was still mostly dark. I could see about 20 feet into the tree line. I don't see a deer. Within 2 seconds of the first shot, I hear another one as I am still looking but not seeing a deer. Something steps out from behind a tree. Its left side is facing me. All I could see was a large black shape step out. It stands there for maybe a few seconds. I know what I was looking at. I had no reaction other than just watching it. It made a noise, but not the stirring kind. Then it walked into the woods. Not only did I see and hear it walk away, but I felt it in the ground like it was hollow and vibrated. No breaking or snapping branches, just footsteps, almost like an echo. Here, I'm still looking, but seeing a deer, but not something steps out from behind. Yeah. So not only did I see and walk away, fell on the ground and fell. Almost like an echo of the ground. After about 6 steps, it was gone. Nothing changed. Some birds and critters moving about, and affected. I stood there, persisting what had just happened over the last few seconds, other than the echoing thuds of footsteps. I was silent. When I realized that, I walked forward slowly to the spot, not sure what I would see. Nothing where it was standing. The ground was covered with falling odd branches. Pardon me. I or a ninja could have walked through here silently. I judged the height of easily 8 feet tall based on its head height relative to the tree it stood next to. I stood there looking around with no sounds. I walked back to the picnic table. On it, still everything is as normal as the coffee and smoke, and observing the wildlife. I go and head inside. As I reach for the doorknob, I feel like I should turn around, so I do and scan the trees line again. Nothing. Just as I turn the knob while facing the door, I see a flash of light, like a camera flash, like someone behind me just took a picture. Instantly, I got goosesteps. My hair stood right up, and I felt like I couldn't get inside quick enough. Strange but uneventful and very memorable. It had to have watched me for at least 10 seconds before I moved. Haven't seen it since. It wanted me to know it was there. This thing was massive. There are quite a few reports along the lines of apparent Bigfoot just blinking out of existence somehow. There have been several similarly bizarre and inexplicable cases of Sasquatch simply vanishing in full view, listed in a paper called Vanishing Bigfoot, Anecdotal Accounts and Challenges for Researchers by Sharon Garnett. One of the cases covered comes from the summer of 2000 by a witness named John Bohonian. He claims that had been driving along a dirt road during the daylight hours just west of the Three Rivers campground near Alamogordo, New Mexico, when he saw a massive bipedal ape-like creature, which was estimated to have been around 8 feet tall and walking along in the same direction as his vehicle. The driver slowed down to a gap at it, and the massive beast was described as having short reddish brown hair all over its body with longer hair underneath. Its forearms and face that looked like a Neanderthal. It allegedly kept on its best stride while staring directly at John for 100 feet away, about 100 feet away, after which suddenly just abruptly faded away into thin air as if it had just been somehow erased. The witness explained that there were no trees or anything that it could have hidden behind it, and that it seemed as if it had walked through an invisible wall. How far does this go down? Okay, not that much longer. Also covered in a curious account that allegedly happened to witness Larry Kim, August 80, near Eugene, Oregon, and it's hard to really classify, seeming to point at vanishing Sasquatch being the result of some sort of interdimensional portal. On this day, Larry had decided to take a hike along the Mallory Indian River, which connects the ridges of Saddle Blanket Mountain and nearby Oak Ridge. At some point during his hike, the witness claims that his surroundings became blurry, overcast, and tinged with an odd gray color, despite the sunny weather. And even though there were no clouds in the sky, it seemed as if a shadow had been cast over the land. Larry would say of this: "The only way I can describe it was as if suddenly Apparently, I was looking through someone else's prescription sunglasses. I finished the step and started another. Every inch I moved forward, the darkness increased and the gray blurring turned into a jumble of shapes that made no sense. Then, suddenly, as this had all happened, Larry purports that he seemed to pass a barrier, that it was everything returned to its focus, but that it was now night and that the wind had completely ceased. That the wind, huh? I'm glad we're reading these stories, huh? I used to do, and I probably will do, popular culture stories, like what's happening with Star Wars, or what's happening with Marvel and Star Trek and stuff like that. But I kind of like doing this and basically having an escape from all of this by reading these paranormal stories and stuff like that. Good stories like this. Let's see this. Now, upon looking, the wind had completely. Looking around, now the wind had completely. Upon looking around himself, Larry found that the scenery had changed in other bizarre ways as well. Instead of the fire trees that had been around him before, there was now thick, unrecognizable, and wild vegetation similar to a jungle, and the air seemed thick and oppressive. Human. Even though it was now night and that there was no discernible moon in the sky, he found that he could still see everything to some degree, as if there was some mysterious light source casting a faint frosting of light upon the landscape. At this point, Larry claims that the air was pierced. This sounds like he fell into fairyland. By a continuous high-pitched keening sound, which immediately filled him with an unbearable sense of dread. The witness explained the really quite bizarre events that followed. It was at this point I heard a whispered "gotcha" over my right shoulder. Gotcha over my right shoulder. I couldn't tell if I heard it or "kucha" over my right shoulder, or a "gotcha," or maybe a "grouchy" over my right shoulder. I couldn't tell if I heard it with my ears or inside my head. The word wasn't directed at me, but over my ears inside my head. It wasn't directed at me, but something said the word discreetly to itself. I was so terrified I actually felt my heart stop for a moment. Then that whispered word is what saved me. I opened my mouth and gasped in a huge gush of thick air and recoiled backwards in the same footsteps I had entered wherever I was. As I threw myself backward, I looked over my right shoulder. A dark-colored, hairy right hand and arm was reaching for my throat over my shoulder. The hand had pale, ivory-shaped, spade-shaped fingernails. The nails looked clean and almost had a manicured look to them. The thumb was placed lower towards the wrist on the hand than a human's is, but both hand and arm were thin and powerful looking. Arm were thin and powerful looking. Hand. Yeah, it does sound very strange here, like he encountered something. As I said before, maybe Bigfoot is a shapeshifter, but maybe he also comes from some other place, and he ended up there. Black hair, let's see that black hair. I got a good look at it because the thumbnail grazed my neck. It did not break the skin. As I moved backwards, as I continued backwards, the hand clutched where my had been. A split second before, and it seemed to fade off into the distance as I turned through the portal. As soon as he had scampered a few more steps backwards, Larry found himself back in the cold mountain air he had left behind the back in his familiar surroundings, and the portal before him seeming to be an oval-shaped patch of shimmering air that slowly faded away until it was gone. Larry then ran off towards the truck as fast as he could. Without looking back, the terrified witness later would reflect on what had happened to him and came to the conclusion that he had been in some sort of interdimensional trap, saying, "On my way home, I was absolutely horrified at the thought of what would happen if I were to drive my truck into something like that. It had been a trap, pure and simple. Whatever it was that tried to kill me somehow kept the portal hidden from me on the way in, and I didn't actually see it until I was back out again. I had terrible nightmares for years and still haven't come to grips with what happened. My fingers are trembling and hair standing up on the back of my neck as I write this." And yet in the report, witness claimed Mr. Montanez was driving along a highway past of El Paso, Texas, when she spotted a Bigfoot reportedly hunched over a dead coyote. She slowed her vehicle to get a better look at the bizarre sight and claims that she looked at the massive beast started to sort of sink as if being absorbed into the ground until it was completely gone. The witness was convinced that there would to have been a cave there and that the thing had simply retreated to its dark confines. But when the spot was investigated, there was found to be no cave or other opening in the ground. Curiously, the cavity was gone and that there were no footprints or anything that could have matched the description of what she had seen. Where in the world did it go? No one knows. Probably even weirder than any of these, the types Bigfoot was reportedly seen in connection to UFOs. One well-known such report occurred in 1973 when Mr. Rafa Hartfield and his 13-year-old son were asleep in their trailer in Cincinnati, Ohio, when Hartfield woke in the middle of the night. Woke in the middle of the night to get a glass of water. She claims that she saw a series of inexplicable lights in the parking area, one of them being a cone-shaped construction of light. When she peered through to see what the lights were, she reportedly saw a huge ape-like creature with grayish hair covering its body, which then entered the light before it and the UFO shot off into the night. In that same year, there was a report from a group of farmers in Fayette County, Pennsylvania, who claimed to have seen a huge UFO about 100 feet in diameter next to what was standing two hairy ape-like creatures with arms that dangled past their knees and with glowing green eyes. One of the farmers reportedly fired at them with his rifle, after which one of them raised its arm and the UFO shot off into the sky. The two hulking brutes remained appraised the men for a moment and then ran off into the forest. How do we deal with these reports? I guess, yeah. How do we deal with these reports such as these? They obviously fit in the mold of Bigfoot sightings in a superficial sense, but these go far beyond what we would expect from what is largely assumed to be some undiscovered giant ape or early form of hominid. Is there the possibility that this phenomenon goes deeper than many are willing to accept? And are we perhaps looking at something interdimensional in nature? It is something I have uncovered before, but is considered to be a fringe even among cryptozoologists. Indeed, the idea of supernatural interdimensional Sasquatch often leaves a bad taste in the mouths of cryptozoologists and can get you laughed out of the room in some places. But perhaps the Bigfoot phenomenon is multifaceted. Maybe there are the reports that are real flesh and blood creatures, and at the same time others that deal with things that merely take on that appearance. Is it possible that both forms of Sasquatch report can coexist? Even the famed cryptozoologist Lauren Coleman has spoken of this in matter, saying, so as not to come off as a hypocrite, I must point out that I have investigated and written about winged humanoids, dogmen, werewolves, goatmen, lizardmen, mermaids, and myriad of other non-human entities. If they exist, these apparitions are most certainly paranormal in nature, interdimensional, extraterrestrial, demonic, ultra-terrestrial. Wording. The difference with the Bigfoot Sasquatch is that it is clearly represented in our fossil history in the form of robust hominids from Pleistocene that makes its existence very valuable in the natural world. I respect everyone's right to their opinion and don't make a habit of questioning anyone's personal experience. If you believe you have seen a Bigfoot materialize or vanish, it may very well be that there is a supernatural phenomenon that chooses to take the form of a giant hairy hominid, seemingly related to Bigfoot, but only superficially. It is hard to know, but considering that we are going off of witness reports in most instances, it seems odd that just one would accept only those that follow the norm and jettison those that go further into the bizarre, off between beaten path. Who is to say which reports should be accepted and which should be tossed? Perhaps there is some way to explain such outlandish reports. Probably so, folks. I mean, yeah. What is with these reports? What do they have to do with each other? Are they all connected with aliens and ghosts and Bigfoot? What is the connection here? What could it all mean? Looks like we went a bit further than I expected, huh? But we did cover a lot of stories today, that is much for sure. Remember, folks, please go and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Read comics, they're bad for you, okay? Remember, there's misspelled, it's THERE. Make sure you're still subscribed. Hit that like button for me because it really helps me fight the algorithm. As well as please leave some comments down below because I'd love to hear from you guys. I'm going to thank Timothy Olson for leaving me a few comments. Also, please hit that like button for me because it helps me fight the algorithm so more people can see my content. Hit that bell as well. And also hit the thing where you get all notifications for all future live streams, okay, folks? As well as please go share this video on social media. Share it on Twitter, share it on Facebook, okay? Oh, yeah. Let's see. Also, please go and subscribe to Stitch Together Picks. Stitch Together Picks is a great YouTube channel. It's hosted by a great great host named the Maniacal Cinephile. He does some incredibly good reviews of movies. You're going to love them. They are great. As well as please go over to Creepy Little Book. It's another YouTube channel, and subscribe to him too. He releases small videos talking about high strangeness, but he also does live streams every night. He live streams on weekdays at 12:30 a.m. and on weekends at 11 o'clock p.m. He talks about aliens and ghosts, and you learn so much from watching his live streams. They are so good. Also, please go and subscribe to my Rumble channel. Just go to Rumble and subscribe to my channel. It's named Comic Freak Up. All right, as well as go over to BitChute and subscribe to my BitChute channel. It is also named Comic Freak. I upload all my content to those two sites. Also, folks, I'll be back again tomorrow around 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock for another live stream, or 8 or 10 for another live stream. So be sure to come back again then. I'm Chris Williams from the Scumdogs Kennel. Thank you all for joining me.